US-mediated peace talks to end the Ukraine war seem to have reached a critical stage, as both sides test each other's red lines and search for even the smallest areas of overlap. The US Department of State on December 5 released a readout detailing the progress made so far, sketching out where there has been movement and where serious differences still remain. US envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff met Ukraine's top negotiator over the last 2 days in Miami, holding back-to-back sessions aimed at narrowing gaps and clarifying each side's core demands. The December 5 talks were the sixth such meeting in the last 2 weeks, according to the US Department of State, highlighting just how intensive and compressed this phase of diplomacy has become. The two sides also discussed the outcomes of Kushner and Witkoff's December 3 meeting with President Putin, trying to interpret Moscow's signals and assess how much room there is for future concessions. The United States and Ukraine agreed that any real progress toward an agreement ultimately depends on Russia, since no deal can hold if Moscow is unwilling to change its current military and political posture. Officials say progress now rests on Russia's willingness to de-escalate and halt the killings, a condition the US State Department stresses is central to any credible path toward peace. Ukraine's top negotiator Rustem Umerov emphasized that Kyiv's top priority remains securing its independence and sovereignty, insisting that no peace formula can come at the cost of the country's statehood. Ukraine's post-war reconstruction and joint EU-Ukraine economic projects were also discussed, with both sides looking ahead to how they could rebuild shattered regions and attract long-term investment once the fighting stops. The US and Ukrainian delegations are set to hold another round of talks on December 6, hoping that continued engagement might slowly turn fragile openings into concrete steps toward a final agreement. The US Department of State's handout read, and I quote, "American and Ukrainians also agreed on the framework of security arrangements and discussed necessary deterrence capabilities to sustain a lasting peace. Both parties agreed that real progress toward any agreement depends on Russia's readiness to show serious commitment to long-term peace, including steps toward de-escalation and cessation of killings." Parties also separately reviewed the Future Prosperity Agenda, which aims to support Ukraine's post-war reconstruction, joint EU-Ukraine economic initiatives, and long-term recovery projects. Territorial control in eastern Ukraine remains a major sticking point in the peace talks, as neither side is willing to easily give ground on borders that carry immense military and symbolic importance. The recent meeting between Witkoff, Kushner, and Putin ended without reaching a compromise, highlighting just how far apart Moscow and Kyiv still are on the core question of land and sovereignty. Putin has warned that Moscow will take territory by force if Kyiv's troops do not withdraw, signaling that Russia is still prepared to escalate on the battlefield if diplomacy fails to deliver what it wants. Russia recently announced the capture of the key Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk, a development framed by the Kremlin as proof that its forces continue to advance despite Western support for Ukraine. The Pokrovsk offensive was part of Russia's broader military goal to seize all of Donbas, a long-declared objective that underpins many of Moscow's negotiating positions. Russia is now estimated to control over 80% of the Donbas region, according to various reports, reinforcing the perception that it will use its battlefield gains as leverage at the negotiating table.